Hello and welcome to a new video from Circuit Digest. Here's Sharad, your host for today. And in this webinar series, we have a very special guest with us. We have Mr. Paresh Vasani, the CEO and MD of PCB Power, a company which has been providing PCB services for over 2 decades. So to learn more about the company and about the PCB market, let's hear from him. So thank you, sir, for joining us today here. How are you doing?
I'm good, Sharad. Thank you. Good to connect with you.
Same here, sir. So can you please tell us more about your company and the vision with which you started the company?
Okay, we are almost a 23-year-old company manufacturing printed circuit board in Gandhinagar, Gujarat. Our vision is to become the de facto standard partner for customers in the area of electronics manufacturing and electronics innovation, where we can provide value to our customers. That's our very precise and simple vision that we carry with us. We have been manufacturing a printed circuit board, double-sided, multi-layer, special technology, high-frequency boards, including Rogers and other materials, for many years. When we started the company, the Indian electronics industry was completely different than what it is now, just like any other evolving industry that we have witnessed over the last decades. It was a more driven by government requirement. CROT was a primary consumer of PCBs all over India, because we were just growing with a new electronics revolution in telecommunication, and CROT was the company funded by Government of India from Department of Telecom, was responsible for connecting each and every city, town, village across breadth and width of country. So there was a huge demand, and a lot of companies were relying entirely on the CROT market, which was a very good business for most of us. And then the reforms started coming in, and then India started opening up with global players, and that changed the entire landscape of Indian electronics industry. And so there was a big shift from CROT volume-based business to what we call as a private company electronics requirement, especially for the components, including PCB. And that changed the entire way of doing business, because now we as a PCB vendor had to approach private customers, talk to them, understand the requirement, which is a lot different than a standard government procedure, where tendering was a standard way of getting and quoting the orders. So there are a lot of different way of doing things when it comes to that. And then we changed our strategy, we changed our plans, and we decided to focus more on a prototype, small and medium volume for our customers. And we realized that there is a possibility for us to make a difference for our customer and bring values to our customers. That's a brief background. After that, we started about a few years back PCB assembly also, where we offer customers not only the PCBs but also give them a high-class, world-class quality of a PCB assembly, including component sourcing. So these are the things that we do that. Then we have a small verticals that we focus on a layout, also on what we call as a product selling, which are kind of required for most of the electronics companies, which are enclosures. We have partnered with a company where we sell their enclosures as a part of the solution.
Okay, so that's great. Like, you have a pretty expanded business. So as far as services, you sell enclosure as well as make PCB and do assembly, PCB assembly as well, and component sourcing. So that's quite a lot of things. So as you all know that most of the people who will be watching this video are from electronics background, and they have used PCB at some point of their time. But most of us don't know how it really works, how the PCB manufacturing take place, and what kind of machineries are used in it. So can you please briefly tell us about that?
Okay, I think this is a very good question, because most of the customers really don't have much idea how the PCBs are made. It's a made to order a product in electronics supply chain, where most of the other components like capacitor, resistors, semiconductor, they all are like available ex stock. There is a manufacturing process at the manufacturers, and then they produce with a certain specifications, and there are standard products which, based on the design requirement, customers would choose and then order those things. Whereas in our case, PCBs are made after we receive the order from a customer. So customer sends us the design, and then we understand the design. We process the design so that we can manufacture it without compromising on any of the requirements from the customer, and we make those boards. So this is not an off-the-shelf product. So it's a process that has to go through that. On average, typically for a double side and multi-layer boards, the process can be divided into 8 to 18 different stages based on the specification. So we start with the raw material, then goes to the process 1, then process 2, then process 3, and then so on and so forth. And these are all processes are sequential. So we cannot go from 1 to 5. It has to go as per the requirement of the customer. So having said that, there is I'll tell you that the basic fundamental raw material of PCB is called laminate, copper clad laminate. Copper clad laminates is nothing but copper on both the side. In between, there is a epoxy, then there is a resin, and there is a glass cloth. So that gives the strength and insulation of the PCB, and then you have copper on the both sides. So that's a fundamental raw material. What we do is that we then goes to the drilling, then plating, and then etching, and then solder mask, which you see the most of the PCBs are green color. So the most popular is a green color solder mask. It could be white, it could be blue, it could be red, it could be transparent, depending upon customer specifications. Then it goes for different surface finishes like hotel level, electroless nickel gold, anything that customer has specified, and then it goes for legend printing, and then finally PCBs are routed as per the requirement of the mechanical dimensions, and then it are tested and find inspections and then packing. So this is the kind of a standard flow that it goes through. Obviously, over a period of time, the design has been very complex for most of the customers. The size of the PCBs are getting smaller and smaller because the final customer expectations are becoming smaller and smaller in terms of their finished product size. So that kind of creates more complexity. And so we need a pretty sophisticated process and process control to make sure that we produce the PCBs right at the first time. So for example, most of the drilling machines that we have are CNC machines, which are high speed, high accuracy machines, which are capable of drilling extra small micro holes. The plating lines have to be also automated to make sure that there is a minimum human error that happens. Plating lines are highly automated with PLC control movement, with highly programmable, where you can control each and every plating cells depending upon how much current that you want to plate, and the dimension and the size and the copper requirement and stuff like that. So it's a pretty complex process. We need a sophisticated CNC routing machine. We need a flying probe testers, bed of nails testers, which are fairly complex, on top of that, we also need a lot of CAD/CAM softwares to process those customer designs. It's a fairly complex thing, and I think it's a good point. Maybe we will try to come up with a video where we can walk our customers through our plant and show them how the processes are worked.
So thanks for explaining the process of manufacturing a PCB, and it sounds very complex and elaborate, but it was just for a single layer PCB. So can you also briefly tell us about how a multi-layer PCB manufacturing works? Because it is like a sandwich PCB with multiple layers. So can you please tell us more about it?
So basically, multi-layer PCBs are a sandwich PCB in a nutshell, in a very common language. What happens that the layers of circuits are laid on top of each other. In between, there is an insulation, which allows them to make sure they don't connect with each other and create a shorts. Okay, and then we have to bond it, and we have to press it. So each layer is separately processed first, and then they are bonded together, and then they are pressed together, And then it becomes a standard double side kind of a situation. And then it starts from drilling to plating to solar mask and everything. So the reason for multi-layer is primarily to ensure that the real estate of the PCB can be reduced as small as possible, because you can practically wrap the circuits in the PCB, the traces, what we call in common language, so that you don't need a bigger size of the PCB. That's the one thing. And also, a lot of customers design themselves such a way that the layer-to-layer connection is also pretty complex with blind and buried wire. So customers are able to design their boards such a way that from certain layer 1 or X to Y, they are connected, but from Z to E, they are not connected, something of that sort. So in technical term, it is called blind and buried wire. Okay. So, and that creates a lot of complexity in the process. And we support many customers with those complex designs.
Great. So do you provide services such as designing or making amendments in the designs?
It's a very good question also, because what happens that there is a fine line between providing design versus design for manufacture. As a PCB producer, as a PCB assembly supplier, we do not really have the vertical or domain knowledge of the customers, the application that they are developing on, because we service many verticals, right from instrumentation to IoT, to telecom, to power, to railways, to defense and stuff like that. So obviously we cannot be an expert in every domain. And we don't want to compete with our customers when it comes to design. So what we do is that we only support our customers where we can bring value to them. So for example, many customers are excellent in designing that product, and what we call as the schematics. So once a customer has a schematic and the bill of material ready, then it becomes fairly mechanical task from creating from schematic to a Gerber file, which is an input for manufacturing PCBs. So we support those customers because there is not much of a intelligence that customer has to worry about, and then it's fairly mechanical process. So we support those things. So which we call as a layout support or design support aspect. Then another thing is the design for manufacturing. Many customers do provide Gerber file to us, which is basically conversion from schematic and bill of material into PCB design, which is called as a PCB Gerber file. What happens when they design a Gerber file, there are chances that customers may not have visualized what difficulties or possibilities that can be available at manufacturing of PCBs. So that is what we call as a design for manufacturability. So when customer gives us a Gerber file, we analyze that Gerber before we produce it to the we start giving it to the manufacturing, and we analyze by telling customers that, hey, there is something wrong that we have noticed from our experience, because we process hundreds and thousands of Gerbers. So we have fairly good knowledge that we can share with our customers. When we tell them, okay, there is a problem in this PCB, we find that these are the traces or pads or anything that we see is not as per the standard, it could be a problem for you. So we create an exception and send it back to the customer. And customer usually appreciates that, yes, this should have been a big problem, because if we produce what they give us, technically it is okay for us to do that, but then we don't bring any value to them. Then customer will realize later on after they assemble it, and then the whole process will start again. So we cut down on those things. And when we tell customers upfront that, please watch out, these are the issues that we have realized. Are you okay with it, or do you want us to make some changes? And we also give them suggestions based on our experiences. So that makes the customer's life pretty easy on top of that. Yeah. And also the same thing happens for PCB assembly. So when we receive the bill of material and the Gerber file, we realize that sometimes the pads are too big for a component, then it could create a problem later on, or there is another issue, the polarity issue, or many normal standard usual things. And that can be a problem for customer in future after boards are assembled. So we highlight, identify those things using our automated tools, and then work with customers very closely for those things.
Oh, that sounds like a really nice touch to, or the value you add to your product. Sir, so you have a lot of things and you require specialized machinery to make the product. So where do you source these machineries? Like probably they are not manufactured in India, so you must be sourcing it from some other country, maybe US or China. So how do you source your components and machineries?
Okay, so there are many factors that one has to consider before choosing a machine. Uh, Whether that machine is what you are looking for when it comes to meeting customers' expectation. Can it produce what customer wants? Number one. Number two, obviously, can it be serviced by locally? Because if the machine is nice, but if you don't really have any service after sales, then it becomes a problem. And number three, what is your budget? How much you want to spend on those machines, and how long you plan to use it? These are the standard criteria that we use it. And most of the machines, based on our experience, we tend to use either European or American machines.
So now,
We
since
do.
you're procuring machines from European or American companies, so you require specialized people. So how do you go about training and development of your people or the people who are working in your company?
Okay, let me just add one more thing. About 10-15 years ago, it was very difficult to find a local manufacturer from India who can, give us a world-class quality. But as government of India is promoting Atmanirbhar and incentivizing a lot of schemes, we have started working with few partners within India who are able to give us good value for money, same technology without compromising on our process thing. We are able to use some of the machines, especially in the wet process area. But most of the machines are still European and American. Coming back to your point, it is not an easy for us to maintain and service those things. Obviously, we work with our machine manufacturers. We have a very long relationship with them, so they definitely understand the need for us to take care of those things. Also, we have developed human capital for servicing and maintenance of these machines in-house as much as we can, to ensure that those machines are regularly serviced and the breakdowns are very limited for better productivity and consistency for our customers.
Okay, that's great. So initially you told us that your company started 23 years ago and you've seen the PCB market rise and the growth of it. So can you just tell us in terms of sheer volume, how has the market grown over the years?
Okay, like 2 decades, 3 decades, 4 decades ago, electronics was not considered as a lucrative or possible manufacturing in India. When I was a kid, is it imported? The cassette player, VCR, all electronics, TVs, they all are imported, and then imported was considered as a de facto standard in terms of quality and reliability and technology. But that has definitely changed over a period of time. Now, India is top 3 or 5 mobile phone manufacturing countries in the world. So things have definitely changed. So as PCB manufacturing also, the number of players have increased over a period of time. The requirement of PCBs in India also has increased. I was a president of ELSINA, which is Electronics Industries Association of India, focusing mainly on component manufacturing and electronics manufacturing in particular. We did a lot of studies and we made a lot of reports in line with government partnership. The total estimated PCB requirement in India is more than $1.5 billion annually. That's a lot, and obviously majority of those requirements are still imported, but the domestic manufacturing is also growing up, especially in last 5 years. So we hope that in next 5 years, the gap between local manufacturing versus import will be shorter, will be minimized, which is right now growing because the demand is growing. The manufacturing capacity is not growing as much as the demand is. So obviously it is met by imports.
So as you said that there's a great challenge from like international players as well. And these days, even for smaller like hobbyists, these Chinese manufacturers or Chinese PCB makers are providing fast and cost-effective component and PCB services, which is taking a huge toll on our Indian manufacturer. So how does a company like PCB Power, who's doing really great in this term in India, is planning to tackle the like international companies or Chinese companies?
That's a very good question. I think there are many factors. So first of all, we have to accept that we are in a global landscape of industry. We have to think global. We have to be globally competitive as a default thing, because Now, being competitive can be very efficient, can be value added, it can be a combination of many factors. We at PCB Power Market have chosen a path of value added services providing to our customers. So we believe that relationship that we would like to have with customer, the reliability that we would like to have with customer will definitely give us an advantage. Obviously, for customers in India, the local language, the communication, ability to talk to somebody over the phone or by, I mean, that really matters. And we have to be as competitive as possible, which we think that we have been fairly competitive, if not the lowest, because we don't want to become the lowest manufacturer price-wise, because we want to bring value to the customers. A small exception that we generate to the customer before we start manufacturing can save hundreds and thousands of dollars. And then when a customer is in need of something, we are there for supporting. So sometimes we get requested, hey, I've placed an order for 2 weeks. I really need these things. Do you see that? Can you place it, push it faster and give us a faster delivery? Which we do that as long as we can. And then so these are the value addition providing that we're doing. We have now started manufacturing PCB assembly for our customers. So it's a great service that we think that we can bring value to customer. And all these things are definitely going to be useful for our customers. We have to live with the competition, whether it's in India or outside India, and it's part of the business, just like that. But as long as you do your job properly, and as long as you invest your money rightly in manufacturing, in technology, in human capital, we are very confident that our customers will be happy with our service and support.
Right. So the main aim is to provide short-term leads and provide quality services. Now, coming to quality, PCB fabrication requires high quality fabrication and very effective quality checks. So what kind of procedures and tests do you perform on the PCBs before they are sent out to the customers?
Okay. I think there is a very easy way to manufacture PCB, because if you look at it, the YouTube videos and a lot of information available on internet, there are amateurs, who could produce a PCB in their bedroom, 1 or 2 boards as a hobby. Then there are companies which are as big as a 2 or 3 bedroom apartment, and they produce PCBs for professionally for their customers. And there are companies like us, who are having a 100,000 square feet facility for manufacturing PCBs, and we produce. So fundamentals of PCBs remain same, but the challenge is that how do you ensure that those PCBs produced are same consistently quality conscious PCB every time, every day, every hour, every minute, and that's where the difference comes in. So we have to invest. We invest a lot of money in our quality, our standards, our training, and obviously the quality equipments to check those things, be it a cross section, be it working with our suppliers to make sure that the raw material that we procure are world-class raw material, so that we don't have to worry about any impact on our quality and stuff. So it's a very complex process. It's a continuous process, and we are very proud and happy and conscious about this quality, and we invest a lot of money in our quality process.
Okay. Sounds really great. So can you please tell us about your company's production capacity as of now, and do you have any plans to increase it in the near future?
Okay. This is the question I often asked by a lot of outside PCB industry, and especially from media. In our industry, the production capacity cannot be really quantified, to be honest with you. I tell you why and how. So for example, let's say that you have a CNC drilling machine, and that machine has a certain capacity, obviously. Now that capacity is different. For example, if I have to drill a 5 millimeter hole, diameter hole, and a simple board, then I can produce, let's say 100 boards per 60 minutes, for example. But now if I have a very fine complex board, where the hole size is 0.1 millimeter, so from 5 millimeter to 0.1 millimeter, the dynamics of that manufacturing machine changes. What happens that I cannot produce 100 boards in 60 minutes when I have a complex board. Excuse me. What happens? then I can only produce 10 or 15 boards in 60 minutes, because it takes longer time to process. If I have to produce only one board for 24 hours, my output will be a lot higher, versus if I have to produce 100 different designs in 24 hours, then my output will be a lot lower. So we try to manage and measure our capacity in how many orders we can produce on average. And we make sure that our capacity does not go more than 70, 75, 80% utilization, because we want to make sure that our delivery performance is maintained throughout the process. It's a relatively complex process, but it's a continuously improved process. Every time do that thing. Having said that, coming back to your capacity questions, we are definitely having a larger capacity. I cannot really quantify in terms of square meter, which is standard for our PCB industry, because I think that is not the right thing to quantify the capacity utilization. But we are able to manage a good number of orders per day, and we make sure that we are ready for future expansion. I think I can give you some idea about it with regards to our plans and investments. In last 5 years, we have invested little over $5 million in our production capacity, in our infrastructure, and in our technology. And we also have similar amount of investment plans in next 5 years with our investments in capacity, in technology, and in capacity. So we invest in technology, which is nothing to do with PCB manufacturing directly. We invest in our software, we invest in our e-commerce capability, we invest in our human capital, we invest in infrastructure, and we are the first company from India, as an Indian company, who started manufacturing PCBs in the USA. So we invested in a USA company also. And then we have, it's our own 100% subsidiary.
Okay, so that's really great. Like having company starting in India and then moving to US and producing there as well. So how is the market different in the US as compared to Indian market?
It's a completely different market. Obviously, their expectations, their requirements are different, because USA used to be a major manufacturing hub for PCBs, not anymore. So now they are exposed to China, Far East, India, European, and some local manufacturing in USA. So the customer has a lot of information at their, just like Indian customer also, but their approach to vendor is, I would say, different than the approach that we receive from our customer. Both of them are good, but their way of working is different than ours. India has also opened up, and customer expectations are also increasing day by day. USA is a bit more mature market, and our manufacturing focus is primarily for what we call ITAR jobs, which are export control jobs for defense and aerospace and several critical applications in medical and other industries. Those we do manufacture in the USA, and for other things we support our customers in USA from our India facility.
Now, I know this is a very cliched question, but I'll have to ask this. So since the inception of this pandemic, comparing the pre-COVID era to today, do you see any growth in the volume of number of orders from hobbyists or electronic makers? Is there growth in that?
Let me answer this a little bit differently, because I think my understanding and interpretation of pre-COVID and post-COVID scenario is slightly different, because I look at it from the different angle. See, what has happened is that pre-COVID, it was not easy for a consumer to differentiate a local manufacturing versus outside manufacturing. During COVID, we realized that, and we were exposed as a country, that we had to rely on many things outside India, right from a simple mask to oxygen generator to many things. And it was an eye-opener for our country. And what we understood and realized that the sentiments from an Indian consumer or innovator or electronics manufacturer or hobbies has changed to some certain extent, because the innovation cannot be stopped, and it did not stop in even during COVID also. Barring those medical attention that most of us had to do for our families and friends and etc. Innovation continued. Now, there was a time that we could not get anything outside India for obvious reasons, and we all know the supply chain was massively disturbed, and that's where we realized as a manufacturer, and after talking to customers and customers as well, that let's have as many local supply as possible, because it is easier for us to innovate, it is easier for us to rely and then improve our supply chain ecosystem. That from that angle, we see that uptick in innovation, and we see that customers are more becoming innovative, and then they want to do that thing. On top of that, government also realized that we are exposed to many things, and for various geopolitical reasons and other things that which are not really known to most of us, is that India has to be self-reliant, and our Prime Minister, Mr. Modi, has come up with the Atmanirbhar Bharat thing, and now it has been inculcated to our customers significantly, and we see that kind of support happening. Again, now over a period of last 4 months or 5 months, because of this COVID analysis, we have realized that the components, especially semiconductor, are in a short supply, and a lot of designs, a lot of manufacturing, a lot of production is stuck, especially for those semiconductor chips, and we are unable to produce those things. So that is something we have to take it into account also. But in general, I think the scenario has improved, I would say.
So here, like currently, even I've read reports that the semiconductor shortage will last even next year. So how is it affecting your company as a PCB manufacturer?
Definitely, it affected us also, because when there is no semiconductor chip available, customer would not be place an order for other components and PCB also. So we see that there was what we call as a hold period. A lot of customers were just waiting for their bill of material to arrive and then start working on. It seems that the situation has eased out to some certain extent, and we see that customers are now planning for their design and etc. So that's one scenario that I would like to draw to you. The second scenario is that a lot of customers realize that, hey, my design is 5 years old, and I've been using this particular IC for so many years. Let me find out, if I'm not able to get this IC, can I redesign my board? Can I find out an alternative component? How can I make sure that my production is not suffered? So a lot of activities also have started taking place for those kind of things, and that has also helped improve PCB requirement to some certain extent. And going forward, this will be better.
So it is sort of a boon as well as a bane as well, because now people are trying to find new methods or new techniques or new ICs. Coming to that, do you have any advice for any electronic grad or people who design PCBs, like RF engineers or PCB engineers or power electronic engineers? Do you have any advice for them?
If I understand your question correctly, you are referring to when they want to design their own product or innovate a new thing, what should be prepared when, as far as ecosystem is concerned?
Yes.
It's kind of pity and unfortunate that there are a little bit limitation that we have to tell to those innovators, designers, that hey, please make sure that before you design, when at your drawing board level or schematics level, please ensure that you have a certain level of comfort with regards to availability of those components. Otherwise, you are again going to go back to your drawing board and then start designing from scratch, which is not a very good idea to do so. Second thing is that there are standard service providers like ours who can really bring value to them, so that they can focus on their own task, which is the most important of designing and developing product. So they should prepare themselves to outsource their PCBs, PCB assemblies, and component sourcing as much as possible, so that they can focus on their core business, which is design and distribution. So that is something I would say definitely in the trend. And if you start working on those things from early stage of your career, it will help you achieve more innovations and design things over a period of time.
So that was really good advice. So now coming to the last part, what advancement can we expect from PCB power market in the coming future?
Okay, see, my job is to think ahead. What's going to happen 2 years, 3 years, 5 years down the road, and I can surely tell you, and I'm very pleased today that our roadmap looks pretty solid, and we are very excited about bringing a lot of new activities and products and services to our customers in coming years. Unfortunately, they all are on the drawing board and pipeline stages, so it's kind of a little bit premature for us to divulge the information. I would say our focus will be always to be with customer, for customer, and bring value to our customers. So we are going to definitely focus on this thing and then make sure that we offer as many solutions, services, products to our customers.
So all I can say is all the best for your future endeavors, sir. I'm pretty sure it will be really great. And thanks a lot for joining us. Do you have anything to say, like anything extra to add?
No, I think it's really a pleasure talking to you. You asked a lot of interesting and important questions, and I'm sure your viewers and designers will learn a lot. And then I look forward to interacting with you in the near future as well.
Yes, same here, sir. It was a pleasure of mine as well. Thanks for joining us, sir.
Thank you so much.